Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining, taking the time today. Today, we're going to be going through the Graphtec vinyl cutters. We've got a special guest with us here. We've got Gary Pulcinelli. Sorry about that, Gary, but I just trying to get it right. We're going to go through a number of different things on the Graphtec machines, just kind of a high-level overview, but just to kind of go through what the agenda is for this webinar is one, which is kind of rooted in me, and that is why has Graphtec been around so long in the industry? It's been kind of like an industry staple for quite a long time, and there's some specific reasons behind that. We'll go over the different lines, the different models of the Graphtecs, again, a little bit of a high level, but get into some of the also key benefits and features of each of those. And then at that point, really go through why would you want to choose a Graphtec over some other brand, for example? What benefits are you going to get? What are some of those key features that kind of push you that way? And again, we're always here to consult. Gary's here to consult as well. We would really like to know also from you what applications you're going to be using your vinyl cutter for. If you currently have one, what do you use it for? We'll go through and add some additional applications to that you may not know about. We're going to go through the support, the warranty, and the service side of this in a little bit of, again, high-level detail as well. And then really kind of get down to the nuts and bolts. Why would you choose Coastal as your partner? So Graphtec is one that's kind of a given in the cutter industry. But why would you choose Coastal if you're not an existing customer? We really appreciate you coming in. But we'll give you some specific reasons why Coastal we feel is better than others. And at the same time, what you're going to gain out of some of that. From there, we'll just go through a quick conclusion. And then at the very end, we've got a small promo. It's a little bit generic, but at the same time, there will be an email go out at the end of this meeting or end of this webinar that will go through the details. And then at the same time, allow you to book some time with us so we can really kind of dig in and find out, learn about you, your company, what you do, as well as how Coastal and Graphtec can help partner with you at that point. So to no ado, really at this point, Gary, I'd like to introduce you to the crowd and really kind of give us a little background about you, about Graphtec, and again, why is Graphtec really still that industry staple 30 years later, really at this point?
Great. No, I appreciate that, Bobby. And, I want to appreciate Coastal, yourself and Jamie for inviting me to do this. And hopefully everybody who's, attending this webinar does get some useful information out of it. And that's the goal. And, we can impart some knowledge and wisdom on what Graphtec is and what makes Graphtec the precision cutting solution in the industry. So, about myself a little bit, I've been in this industry now for about 20 years. Been with Graphtec for a little over almost 7 years. Started off as a technician, so I did installations, trainings, tech support, and then moved over to sales about a year and a half into my tenure at Graphtec. So I've been doing the sales portion of it for the past five plus years. So learned a lot, very fortunate from that side to get to meet a lot of great people such as yourself and the Coastal team. And it's been a good ride so far. So as far as Graphtec, the history of Graphtec, surprisingly, we've been around since like 1949. We're a Japanese-based company. We're the American subsidiary of Graphtec, so we're Graphtec America. And we've been in this market for the last 30 plus years. Been doing roll feed, plotters, and cutters all during that time. And we've been honing and making that technology more precise as we've come out with each new generation. And I'd like to think that we're one of the premier cutter lines in the market.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, going back to the 80s and 90s, whenever I really kind of cut my teeth in the sign making industry, it was really kind of a well-known statement that you would hear at the big shows, the big events, and so forth, without necessarily a plug. Going in is the Graphtecs were really the Cadillac of the cutters for the sign industry. So they were known for, being top quality, strong, reliable, so forth. So, it's definitely been a good partnership. You and I go back a little bit further, even with Coastal, but like I said, been in the industry for a long time. So Graphtec's always been a good partner, good staple, good machine. So with that, let's just kind of go through some of the different models, kind of break it down basically on your Pro Series, your entry level, and so on. But one thing I would like to just add is a lot of people may not know, if you've gone to the Graphtec website, you may have seen it, but you also have a whole mythical side to Graphtec as well. which I thought was kind of interesting, the instrumentation or the measuring devices and so forth. So
Yeah.
precision really kind of comes in because obviously that's something that you cannot have any kind of problems, errors with. But again, that same attention to detail and so forth goes right back into the cutters too. So again, just the point I wanted to bring up. But let's just kind of break into the different models. What is it that Graphtec has to offer right now?
No, that's a great point too, Bobby. So basically, we have three different lines of cutters. So we have a CE series, which is our entry level roll feed cutter. And then we go to the FC series, which is our main workhorse that you're going to use in a production environment that's going to take you to the next level, that Cadillac that you're talking about. And then we have our FCX series, which is our flatbed cutter that we also offer if you're looking to do magnetic material, smaller prototyping, things along those lines. As far as this, what separates the CE from the FC, if you're an end user and you're kind of asking yourself, why would I choose a CE over an FC or vice versa? It's going to come down to a few things. Number one is it's going to be size in what you're cutting. The CE series, it comes in a 15, 24, and a 50-inch size. So if you're doing more heat transfer, smaller, 12 to 24-inch type media, you might want to look at doing something like that right there. If you're looking to do more production, you need more downforce. So the CE series goes up to 450 grams of downforce. So it can cut, some sandblast, but more, you're going to be more doing vinyl, self-adhesive, things like that. When you get to the FC series, you're going to be doing, and when we talk about applications, you're going to be doing the same self-adhesive vinyl, but it also has the ability to do thicker vinyls, like high intensity, so on and so forth. And then the sizes again, 30, 42, 54, 64. So it gives you more options to choose from, depending on what you're doing. Most of the time, people are going to marry it up with a 54-inch cutter because most people are doing 54-inch media that they're printing on, so on and so forth. And but you can put smaller media in there, obviously, and cut that as well. So those are the big differences between the two, and as well as tracking. So when you talk about a CE series, you're going to get up to about 15 feet of tracking. When you move to the FC series and you're doing longer runs, you can do up to about 50 feet. And in all honesty, if you ever come to the trade shows and stop by our booth, you'll see that we have a roll on there in the back. And we're basically running that all day. So it's almost a full roll. So we're very good with tracking media. The other difference between the FC and the CE is it's going to be speed. The FC series is going to be faster. You're going to get more throughput, and it's going to actually help you, get more production done.
No, I agree with that. One thing I like about the FC series, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the CE does not include the media core caps or the adapters, which is one, and that's matter of fact, I think I have one here. I can reach them, but they're basically just a core system here that you put inside the roll of material. You tighten it up. This rubber piece swells up, holds your material nice and tight. And again, now you're rolling on the edge of this piece, not your roll of vinyl, which could be slightly lopsided or problematic there. So you will get better tracking out of the 9000, the FC series. So definitely one of those there that we want to go through. On the flatbed side, prototyping is one of those things. Also, some sandblast materials, some of your thicker materials or thick, E-flute materials and things like that. But again, it just goes into the fact that Graphtec thinks, a very broad area of applications at that point and applies the technologies to all of those in order to, give you one upgrade paths, but also give you options to offer other products to your customers as well. So really, really nice. So when it comes to some of the other key features, as in, I'll just give you an example so we can kind of run through some of those. But, we actually use what we have on this, printer cutter here now are mug sheets. We print them on a 44-inch size die printer. And then at that point, we actually have it set to actually perf cut these sheets out where they're actually in a piece. We wrap them up and we can go from there. But we have to have a crop sensor, or a crop mark sensor in order to read the registration and so forth. What are some of the other applications for the crop mark sensor, as well as the other kind of standout features on this machine?
So, as far as the crop mark sensor, it's our latest iteration, and it's very fast, especially if you look in conjunction or at our previous models. It's going to be more accurate. It's going to allow you to do that high intensity media more effectively with less trouble. And those are some of the things that we continuously improve upon. And the one thing I wanted to point out too, Bobby, is I'm going to bring up our website a few times, but as everybody's here watching, our website is really a good resource for that too. And when you talk about those applications, we actually have, under each model, we have applications that we've tested that have come to us either from end users, sometimes specialty stuff that we'll test to make sure it's going to work. And we publish that on our website, so you can kind of see the different things that our machines will do. And some of that is real niche, but that's a good source for that information for the end user as well.
Agreed. The website's going to be key for a lot of things. We use it a lot internally here to not only just do some education on our side with our staff, but whenever it comes to end users after they purchase the equipment, they get some training with it, and then at that point they're kind of on their own. So really at that point they're left to kind of learn a little bit. We're here for a phone call, but we're not here 24/7. Graphtec's not open 24/7. So in those after hours or the weekends and things like that, if you're running into some problems, always refer back to your user manual. But there are a tremendous amount of training and educational videos on the Graphtec website that I would highly recommend anybody and everybody go watch. Even if you're in just the market for the cutter, it's definitely good. And that's one of the things that we always recommend customers go do in order to actually learn and make sure, hey, is this the right cutter for your application or for your business really at that point? So,
Right.
A couple of other key features that I find again, coming from the sign industry, is on some of these models like the FCs, you do have options to where you can install like an additional pinch roller or two, depending on the size. So that's really handy for some thick materials or hard to track materials, and so forth. There's also some take up reel options on some of these also that I think is an overlooked item really at that point for a lot of these. But if you're just doing sheets, probably not really like to be any kind of benefit, but definitely some things there. Communication on how they connect to the computer is really one of the problems that we run into when we call, when we get tech support calls. They're trying to, just connect it to their computer really at that point. What options do you have on some of these models that's going to make it easier for that customer?
Well, actually, on all of our models, we have the ability to do USB connection, which is the general, the standard connection. We have Ethernet as well, where you can network it. Now with the CE8000, we actually have a wireless option as well. And all of them also have the ability to do barcoding. Or you can use a USB connection. To your point, with the long media tracking and the additional push rollers, that's where you want to add those additional push rollers, is for heavier materials and to do longer tracking more accurately, if that's a workflow for you all the time. And the same with the take-up system. But going back to the communication issues, some things that you want to watch out for that we notice from our side, and I'll get calls too still, that the machine either isn't communicating. When I send a job, nothing really happens. You have to make sure, especially if you're in a corporate environment and even at home with antivirus, you just have to make sure that it's not getting blocked. That's generally what we see as, the quick fix is just making sure that that your security software is not blocking it, that you just allow it. One of the other things that we see is when you're installing software, same thing, is making sure that that the software that you're using, especially our Cutting Master plugin, that you have Illustrator closed and then you install it. And then that way everything installs properly into the proper folders. And then you should be good to go after that.
I mean, we have to kind of follow directions. Some of us don't like it. So, yeah, and that is, we run into a good bit as people get excited about getting the cutters and, they want to install playing. And I'm guilty of it probably more than anybody. So I'll screw up the first install from for most anything that I buy because I don't read the directions. But it is important to at least watch that setup video or out of box video that you have on your site. And then just take your time to go through. Don't rush into it because, what could take 10 minutes to kind of read through that or watch is going to save you half an hour to an hour of uninstalling software and rebooting and doing all that stuff just to be able to get that connection to work. So it's definitely something that you need to take time to kind of just learn before you actually take off and start running with it and go.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Bobby. As you look at our video series, and we're working more on the CE 8000 series, very similar on the CE 7000 to the 8000 with some little minor differences. But as you go through, I mean, to your point, we have our unpacking and assembly, downloading software. And then we go all the way up to, basic to print and cut, advanced, in the materials. We have on there, cutting acetate film, cutting DTF media. We have some special PDF downloads, and that's going to where you're going to come in. It also, we have the blade loop. So our machines now come with this right here. So this is a blade loop. And if you look inside here, and if anybody has a Graphtec cutter, what you can do is you can put
Yep.
your tool in there, and when you look in there, there's a couple reasons. As silly as it seems, it's actually very critical. Is you can see the length of the blade on the media that you're cutting. So if you have multiple users or you do different medias, you can say, hey, on this media, I'm at the third setting with a force of 30. So you can automatically set it without having to do a bunch of test cuts. You're kind of ready to go. So this is helpful for that purpose. The other thing that it's going to help is, Coastal might get a call, or we might get a web support saying, hey, my machine, the cuts aren't as good as they used to be. And this might help you actually determine, is your blade chipped? Is your blade dull? It might be time to replace your blade to get back to that point where your cuts are what you need them to be. So that's a major tool and a major benefit for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things we used to do back in the days, we would take our vinyl material, we would hold up our blade and kind of put it right to the edge of the paper. And that's how you kind of judge, whether your blade's sticking out far enough. Again, with the loop that you now include, there's no more guessing to it. And one other thing I would do, or tip wise, is if you're going to invest in a large cutter like this, go ahead and purchase an additional blade holder, especially if you have multiple users. Then at that point, you can use this as a quick change in between different materials. So you always have a tray up here to hold your different blade holders and so forth. But if you're switching from one material, thin material, to thick, taking the time to put it in the loop, make your adjustment, so forth. And so, to get that done, just swap out the blade and go from there. And, it might save you some time.
Well, and another point to that too, is the manufacturers sometimes will actually have recommendations on settings of the material. The one thing going back to my training days that I used to try to impress upon the end users, because a lot of people were either new to it, and sometimes it's a simple machine to use. So and sometimes people would overcomplicate things. So to try to make it simple, I would try to explain it this way. One of them was what you just showed there, Bobby. The other thing I would do is I would take a piece of, you could say this was a piece of vinyl right here, and I would actually take the tool and run it across the table and then weed it. So and the point to that is you only want the blade out to be as far as the material is thick. Okay, so most vinyl is very thin. So it's almost going to be like a little needle point. Sometimes I'll see people where they'll send me a photo or a video, and it's sticking out, and you can see shaft of the actual tool, and that's wrong. That's going to cause cut quality problems. It's going to mess up your cut strip. So the biggest thing is you only want that needle to be out a little bit, going through the media without going through the backer. Okay, so that's a good starting point, a good foundational point. And then when you get past that, what you're going to do is on the machine you have a force setting, right? And when you do a cut test, what you're going to do is you're going to get a little square with a triangle in the middle. So If you can weed that square out without any issues and it's not going through the backer, you're good with blade length.
Leaving the triangle still in place.
Yep. So you leave the triangle back, and then you're good with blade length. What happens is most people say it's not cutting how I want it to. They extend the blade further. That's wrong. Do not do that. And what we're looking for on the triangle after that is it should meet at a 45-degree point all the way. So if it's tailing off a little bit, like what we call little nipples, however you want to describe it, that's going to be force. You might want to up the force one, because what's happening is as it's pushing down and it's leaving to go to the next cut, it's kind of tailing off. So you want that force to be a little bit higher to continue that cut. Okay. And it's like I said, I might be explaining it a little bit too in depth, but those are the two foundational pieces that I think will set you up for good cuts and keep your cut strip and your blades lasting a lot longer than they normally would.
I mean, it's a great segue into some of the other things that we wanted to at least cover the basics on. Is there are consumable parts on this. Just because it is a vinyl cutter and you're just changing the blade doesn't mean that that is all that you need to worry about. So a couple of things, as you're talking about extending the blade length out of the blade holder, one of the problems we used to run into is the initial user would do exactly that. And then they would run and actually, try to cut things. So it damages the blade protection strip, which is kind of like a soft landing pad for the blade as it hits, goes into the material. So it kind of gives it a little bit of play there. But at the same time, with that blade sticking out so far, the other end of that blade is a conical point that is actually rotating in bearings inside of the blade holder. You'll damage the blade holder. Now you're going to have to pony up and get a new blade holder. And that means if you don't have the spare, you're out. You got to, wait till that piece gets in. So you got to be a little cautious on those things. But minimal maintenance on these things. Blade holder, I usually recommend replacing a blade holder about every 2 to 3 years. I've got customers that say, I've never changed my blade holder and it's 10 years old. Great, then you're taking the time and dialing in your blade, correctly and so forth, you're fine. But blade protection strip is another thing that, again, people overlook. As that thing starts to get worn out, it'll develop a groove in the middle. You've got to replace it. So again, it's a very easy thing to do, but it is important, and it will make you think that your settings are wrong when all it is the landing, portion of that blade protection strip has just got a groove in it. So definitely.
Another way you can check too to make sure that your blade holder, to your point, there's the little bearings up here that allow the blade to move freely is, so I have a blade in here and you can actually move that. And if you feel it moving freely.
Just a little bit more for the camera, sorry.
Sorry. If you can move that freely and you can feel the blade turning in there, you're good. And then the other thing that you want to check out too is make sure there's no debris in there. Just every now and then, just blow it out. Things like that. And you can do a little 3-in-1 oil in there, something like that, just a little bit, and that'll help that as well. As far as the other consumable that we miss is the push roller wheels. Sometimes, over time, and Lisa, I see your question. I'll get to here in a second. Over time, you'll feel when you have a new machine, those wheels are rubbery and pliable is the best way I can explain it. Over time, they get hard. So think of like my head. It's just hard. So the media that's moving back and forward and backwards, it could slip a little bit. So what we recommend is probably once a year. That is a consumable item that you probably should replace those, especially if the machine's getting heavy use. So there's a lot of
fairly easy to change out today versus what they were 10 years ago with the collar pin type and stuff. So accept a lot better.
Yeah, it's a lot easier. Definitely a lot easier. At least I see your question over there. Are the cutters mat compatible? They are. Now, what I would recommend is, to your point, again, on our website, you can always see under our software, we have the compatibility of what Mac software, what Mac operating system, Illustrator, Corel, so on and so forth. It'll give you the details of what we should be working with. Now, with that being said, especially with Illustrator, what I would always recommend, and this is for Windows or Mac, is I would disable automatic updates because what we get, and I'm sure Bobby hears this as well, and the team at Coastal is once Illustrator updates, and if you allow it to automatically update, what it can do is break the connection with Cutting Master. So just make sure that we find out when the update comes out, when you find out that the update comes out. Okay. So just make sure on our website before you update Illustrator that our software actually supports that update.
Good point. Good point. And if that did answer your question, just let us know. If it did not, let us know. We'll kind of go back on that a little bit more, or we can actually send some specs and so forth out to you at that point. So some of the applications that we've gone through, we kind of discussed a few things specifically, but heat transfer vinyl is probably one of the biggest ones that we use, as well as just cutting up paper for dye sublimation cutouts and so forth. But automotive window tint, surprisingly enough, a lot of car dealerships and auto accessory stores have these Graphtec cutters in with software with the templates already built in. So it'll cut some pretty thin stuff. So it goes back to the precision and the engineering in the machine itself. Probably more common in more of your sign making shops or sign shops really at that point for vinyl, vehicle wraps or different kind of contour cuts and stuff there. But again, printable heat transfer vinyl is definitely a big one as well.
And actually, if you don't mind, Bob, I'm going to elaborate on that a little bit. So
Sure.
One of the other differences between the CE series and the FC series is the FC comes with a basket, okay, but and the CE series does not. But if you actually get the CE 8130 AKZ, which is an automotive specific model, that does come with a basket, and it comes with 2 tip blades and anti-static string and magnets. So what that does is it helps dissipate the static from the media as it moves back and forth. That can cause issues with the main board, especially this time of the year in, Missouri, Michigan for sure. The other thing too is I would say anybody, if you're cutting vinyl, and I had this happen when I used to manage a sign shop, when you would if you put the vinyl in and you feel static and you get a nice static shock, we also offer the anti-static string and the magnets as a separate item as well to help dissipate and help alleviate that issue. So that is a great.
Quite a few even just recently asked about that specifically, and sometimes that static it'll light you up. You definitely want to try to make that in order to avoid electrical problems in the machine. But it will also affect the tracking, I have found, because that, especially if it has a mylar backing, it kind of wants to adhere to the platen sometimes. So
Right.
it makes it a little hard to actually feed through. So definitely something there. But
a quick tip too on that too, especially with static, and it's probably common sense, but try not to have it on carpet. Try to have it either on a hard floor or get put it on some type of a mat or anti-static mat to help dissipate that.
good point. Like that. So while we go into, we've answered one software question. We get the call quite often. What software comes with it? What other softwares do we have? Or the most common one is, I already have this software to drive my solvent printer or my BTG or whatever. What are some of the other software programs that you would recommend as options? And again, this will go directly towards one of the promos that I'm going to put towards the end of this.
Okay, great question. So first, let's start off with what we offer. We offer Graphtec Studio 2 and then Cutting Master 5. So Graphtec, so just remember the software that we offer, it's free. It comes with the machine. It's meant to more be, Cutting Master 5, a little different, but Graphtec Studio 2 is meant to be more something to get you up and running and into the industry, get you comfortable, okay? And then it's going to kind of lead us to what Bobby's talking about with the other softwares. Cutting Master 5 is a plugin. So most people do their design in Illustrator or CorelDRAW. So with that being said, you're going to do your design in Illustrator. And what Cutting Master 5 is you go down from File to, you'll see it under the File menu system, and you select Cutting Master 5, and it allows you to put registration marks on or send the cut job over directly to the cutter. It's a conduit from the software to the cutter, okay? Come down a little bit so you can see my hand gestures here too. So that's what we give you on our website. It's all downloadable on our website. And back to Lisa's question, is I always recommend going to our website and checking the software and what versions of either Illustrator or Mac OS is supported with software. So that kind of gives you an idea of where you might need to go there. And then in terms of now moving into paid software, we call it third-party software. SAI Flexi is a great software. And it's just going to depend on when you got that software. If it support, what you can actually do to make sure that it supports our cutters is either go to add a cutter or add a vinyl cutter device and see if it's actually listed. If it's not listed, you're going to have to upgrade. And I think most Flexi right now is subscription based, if I'm not correct, Bob, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bobby, where they get the automatic updates anyway, right?
Yeah, they do. They do have still a perpetual license as well, which would require an install. But yeah, with most any subscription, you're going to get updates. But to that point, also the Flexi is going to give you the options to do full design and cut, or print and cut, all of those different functions. Some other software, such as we've got customers with die-sub printers, and they're running Wasatch, or they're running Ergosoft, or Onyx, or Caldera, or anything there. I believe pretty much every one of those programs, which are mainstay, rips in the industry, they almost all have drivers built in also. You will still need to contact maybe the manufacturer, or at least check their website just to make sure the newest model is on there. And there are some rips that will actually charge you for the drivers. So just be aware of that going into it. And again, we're here to help out with any of those types of questions. If I don't offer the rip that you're currently using, I can definitely probably get you a contact. So, Gary and I have been in the industry for quite a long time. Most people will still answer our calls, right, Gary? But, for the most part, we should be able to find out what we need.
Right. And to your point, so Flexi, I don't think they're Mac compatible. Flexi and
version.
They do have a Mac version now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So Flexi Onyx is a Windows-based software. And then going back to that Mac compatibility question, Caldera is, as far as I know, a Mac-only software rip. So that also gives you the ability to add a printer, do the print and cut that we're talking about. They're all very similar in the end, with the same functionality for the most part, but Flexi is, you can get it with, and tell me if I'm wrong, you can actually do design in it as well. So you can get it, it's basically can be a fully featured software for you.
You can do it several different ways. So with the Flexi product, you can actually buy their full complete version, or Flexi Complete. So that has a whole design side as well as an output side. So you don't need Illustrator, you don't need Cutting Master. It's all internal at that point within the Flexi product. If you want to use Cutting Master 5, you can still use that, and then downgrade your Flexi from a Flexi Complete to just the Flexi Designer. You're going to save in cost. It gives you the design capability, and you can send through it that way. So you have options, but again, that's why we're here. We can definitely help. We just want to make sure that we understand your workflow, your situation, your equipment line, as well as what you're comfortable with, in order to offer the best solution for your business. The goal behind Coastal is not necessarily just to go make a buck. It is, we want to build relationships. So we want to be the one there to help you, and be the one that you make the phone call to say, hey, I'm looking at doing this. Is there going to be any problems, or what are your recommendations? We like the opportunity to avoid surprises. That's kind of how I look at it. And most of it works out. It does help out.
No, those are great questions. So, or great points, I should say. So yeah, there's various options, but I think the one thing, as Bobby was explaining it, on the majority of this, the common denominator is you need to design software. Illustrator is generally the go-to, and then the RIP software takes whatever you design, and then if setting it up allows you to either send it to print, or send it to cut, or print and cut.
Right. You're still going to be able to download SVGs from anywhere that you want to purchase those if you're not designing them yourselves, and then still be able to output. So you do have that option. So it should be fine. So kind of moving on to a little bit of a different subject, when it comes down to reliability of the machine itself and warranty, what options do you have with each of the different models, as in what's the warranty, as well as what options do you have to extend that warranty?
Okay. No, that's a great question. I'll get to you in a second, Dave. I see your question there. As far as warranties, and again, this is all I'm going to keep pointing you to our website, everybody. So this is all on our website under the warranty coverage. The FC series is a 3-year with the main components. Friction feed components, stand, that's a year across the board. But other components like the cutting head, things like that, the main board, stuff like that, are 3 years. And the CE series is 2 years. The FCX series is 2 years. And then as far as extended warranties, we actually do offer a protection plan. And we can extend those to 5 years. And for the CE series, it's $400. For the FC series, it's $650, so on and so forth. And you would get that through Coastal after you purchase the machine within 90 days. And then we will, extend your warranty from that point. So the other part of the warranty situation is, and it's a real benefit for those of you who are watching this to purchase from Coastal, is Coastal is an authorized service center. So what that means is, if you feel that something's happened to the machine mechanically, you reach out to Coastal, and they actually have a technician who can actually work with you. And then they basically work through our technicians, and then we take care of you under warranty. And what that means is, for our warranties, is it's a depot repair. So unless it's within a shouting distance of Coastal, they might be able to come on site and work, to fix the machine. But we require that the machine get taken to the repair center to get diagnosed and repaired, but we will then pay for return shipping if that is needed as well.
Good points. So we do have some local customers that have taken advantage of that. It is a great value, great service. We do have technicians that are able to break these things down to the nuts and bolts and then rebuild them back. It is one of those things that normally what seems to work the best is, after making the phone call to our technician, is if you're local, just bring the cutter here. At that point, we'll unload it, we'll bring it in, so forth. Usually we'll diagnose it that day. If there's parts that's needed, we try to pre-order those ahead of time. But then at the same time, usually we're able to fix that if we have parts within 24 hours, so you pick it up the next day. Some situations may be a little bit longer. Scheduling also comes into play just a little bit as well. But again, you don't necessarily have to drive to California or ship it to California. You do have local service centers. We're one of them in this in the Midwest area. So,
and one critical thing to keep in mind too is, as those of you who have the machines, how you might describe the issue might be different than how we see it. So what we always ask is for a video, because that really helps us kind of, or error codes that populate on the screen itself. Those help us determine possibly what the issue might be. And then to Bobby's point, once we get that, we call it a service repair order, and we say, oh, okay, we're going to take care of this machine under warranty. Then we ship those parts or what we think might be needed to Coastal ahead of time so we can get you turned around. Our goal is, not to ask you a ton of questions, but we want to make sure we're getting you repaired as quickly as possible and making sure it's the right repair. David, is Cutting Master integrated with Corel Draw? It is. The thing that, and again, I'm going to point you to our website because I actually had to go here and look at it myself, is Corel Draw Graphics Suite only. Right now, it's not compatible with Home, Student, Standard. There's a lot of, I didn't realize there was this many editions. Student, Standard, Essentials, Technical Suite, or Perpetual Edition. So it's basically Corel Draw Graphics Suite only. I believe we're working on getting integration, but I have not heard anything beyond that, to be honest with you. But again, always check out the compatibility on the website. It's right there under the software, and it'll help you at least make the choice determining which software you might purchase, if it's Corel or Illustrator.
Yeah, always check what version that you have. If you don't know exactly which version that you have, the majority of the software programs out there, if you go up to the help menu, click on About, it'll bring up a splash screen. If you can either screenshot that, take a picture, text it to us or your technician, it's going to help out a whole lot in order to help to help resolve the issue. But anytime we're trying to sell one of these machines, I want that information up front as well. Again, we're in the business of stopping surprises from happening, which surprises are just going to slow you down and cost you money. So from there, that'll be part of the consult when we talk to make sure that we have all of the I's dotted and the T's crossed to make sure that, hey, when you receive this, we're ready to set this up and you're pretty much ready to go at that point. We're getting close. We're about 40 minutes into it. I'd like to leave it open just for a little bit of Q&A. We've had some great questions so far. One of the things that we haven't covered, and Gary, I appreciate your time on this. You already answered some of these questions or added some of these. And really the question is, why would you want to partner with Coastal on a Graphtec or on other devices at that point? So, just to kind of cover some of those things, as you probably have figured out now, we've got a pretty good knowledge base of all of these products, as well as the methods of decoration. We've got a little bit of the IT background as well. So whenever you come to us, if I don't have the answer, I've got staff here that's going to be able to actually, solve that problem for you. So for the most part, we should be able to answer most any questions that you have or provide a solution from there. So we do have in-house technicians. Again, the authorized service center. It's really important to know that somebody's got your back if something goes wrong, that we would be able to get that taken care of. And again, usually we're pretty quick about getting that taken care of whenever it comes down. We know you're down. We know your business is suffering at that point. Then, we want to get you up and running and go from there. And as I said, we're not just in it for the buck. We all have to make $1 in order to open our doors the next day. No question about that. But again, we really want the relationship. So when you buy a piece of equipment from you, I am going to ask, well, what vinyl do you use? And can you buy your blades from us? And so, but in order to do or to get those sales, we have a tremendous amount of value that goes along with it, really at that point to make that little sale, kind of minimal. It's more about just the connection that we have and making sure that we're taking care of you, because you're going to come back to us for any kind of upgrade pass. You may buy a smaller car, the CE, for example, and then turn around and say, hey, I've got a contract. I need 9,075 30-inch models. We can help with that. So it's a lot of different things there that we're going to be able to help out with. Same thing with application support. You all hear Jamie in the background. I mean, we've got a lot of people here that know all kinds of these different applications and methods. We'd be able to help you out. Financing options is another one. So that's a big hurdle right now in today's economy and the way things are going. When it comes down to this type of equipment, I would always recommend, if you are leasing or considering leasing at that point, get a quote or ask for the extended, warranty, or the repair or the protection plan, Siri. I'm sorry, I forgot the exact word. Bundle those in. Really, at that point, you're paying a minimal amount per month for that, but you're covering yourself for 5 years. That normally is about the time of an average lease, 3 to 5 years. So if something goes wrong, you're not out of pocket for the most part again. So again, you're kind of protecting yourself behind that. Is that kind of what you're seeing as well, Gary? Good advice on that side?
I think it's great advice, actually. And the one saying, it's never a good time when your machine goes down, right? It's at a critical point, right? So the biggest thing I will impress upon those watching is, can you potentially get them cheaper someplace else? You might, but also do your diligence and ask, like what we're describing right now is, will you repair my machine if something happens to it? Because again, once you go down, you're going to realize you wish you had that relationship and you had that company who could actually repair those machines as an authorized service center. That's where Coastal
for a second there, because it's not only just that. I like that, but it's also, are they authorized? Anybody can tell you that, hey, I can fix your machine. I've been doing this for 10 years, so forth. But again, when it comes to warranty, if they're not authorized like we are at that point, they're not going to be able to get parts, or they're buying third-party parts. So you need to be cautious on that and make sure that you are working through an authorized dealer as well as an authorized service center for that as well.
Right. No, those are great points, and that's why we're here, and we're working with you closely to make sure that and educate everybody that there's a reason you need to go to Coastal, and this is one of the big ones.
I agree. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of recap a number of different things that we've kind of gone through. Nothing really major, but again, Graphtec is here for you. We can always set up, if you have specific questions that I can't answer, I can always pull Gary in to help out with some of these or include him in an email here or there. So forth. But when it comes down to your applications, the footprint, getting the thing through the door sometimes is a question, or how it's going to be received. Do you need a lift gate. I mean, all of these are questions that we have built in. When you call us, we're going to start that path for you to get the piece of equipment. So again, from there, you're going to get everything from supplies to support to install, all these things kind of tied in. So when it comes down to the very end of this, before we open it up for any additional questions that we may have, I do want to put out there that at the end of this, anybody that has registered, we will be sending out an email. It will highlight a number of the things that we've gone over today. We'll also include links to the Graphtec website on a lot of the videos, or at least that section, the protection plans, as well as through our website, because you can purchase those through our website as well. And from there, you'll have additional details on a promotion that we're going to be putting just for the registered users at this point, is that you buy your choice of Graphtec cutter from us. I'm going to go ahead and put in a 7-day free trial to the Flexi Complete program. That would require you to register with them, but then there's a download link, and at that point, we'll help you install it. With that, when you take shipment of your machine, we will set up a 1-hour remote session with you, similar to what we're doing exactly right here. But we would probably log into your computer if you've got that permission or capabilities. We'll help you install the software. We'll make sure everything's working. We'll help you through your first cut. When it comes to the Flexi software, we will be able to show you the basics of how to operate the software, as well as be able to output. So an hour's worth of time on somebody like a technician or a salesperson that's going through an install, that literally is probably anywhere from 3 to 5 hours of you monkeying around at your own time trying to get it to work. So we can actually, again, get you up and running quicker, no charge at that point. I'm also going to go ahead, if you purchase and you buy or pretty much use heat transfer vinyl, there you're doing just heat transfer vinyl for your decoration methods. I will include a package of heat transfer vinyl, a weeding tool, and a couple of other things to at least help you get going. Maybe you like our material better than somebody else's. Maybe our price is a little different, or again, maybe availability, because we've got a very large warehouse that ships. You order before 5 o'clock, it ships the same day, and it's in, as long as it's in stock, you're good to go. But if you are doing sublimation, like the coffee mugs and things like that, I'd love to know about the printer and the processor you're doing or using in order to actually produce those. But I will include a free roll of our either 30, 44, 64-inch rolls of material for the hard surface or soft surface, whichever one that you're using. That will go along and that will be shipped to you as well. I'd like the opportunity at that point to see if our material works with your application, your workflow, if we're able to save you some money on cost or anything there. But again, give you some extra stuff in order to turn and burn and make some profit off free stuff, help pay your cutter off. So really at that point, we'll be able to bundle a few things like that together. So I want to thank Gary, thank Jamie for helping coordinate this entire thing. And Gary, if there's anything else that you would like to add to this, the floor is yours at that point. Otherwise, we'll take and see if there's any additional questions at that point.
Sure. Real quickly, I just wanted to thank everybody who took the time to actually attend the webinar. Number one, thank you very much. And then again, thank Coastal for having me and inviting me. It's great to be able to help you with what you're trying to do and educate your customers. And then, I guess the last question that I'll try to answer is why Graphtec, right? Why Graphtec over our competitors? And, a lot of the competitors, they're very similar machines. So I'm not here to disparage anybody else and what they make, because everybody makes solid machines. But the biggest thing is we have a track record. And I get people who come and we get calls and talk to me at the trade shows that have had machines, a CE 3000, a CE 1000. I don't even know what a CE 1000 looks like. So, our machines are long lasting, and you'll find out we just had this the other day. We might not have the parts for it, but somebody's had the machine for 20 years in either Coastal or our tech team. We will at least look to see if we have parts even laying around and at least try to get you an answer. It might not be the answer you want to hear, but the support that we have after the sale, I think is top notch. And actually working with Coastal and the team there, I think you're in good hands, and there's a reason that people choose Graphtec as their cutter of choice.
Well, agree 100%. And I do know what a CE 1000 looks like. My first one was the FT 2100. You probably have one sitting there. So also known as the tank. So definitely good. So we'll leave this with any questions. We'll go ahead and we'll close out. Feel free to email us any questions. Again, we'll get this email out to you either today or tomorrow. And if you have any additional questions, I do look forward to hearing from each and every one of you. And we'll follow back up and see if there's something we can do to help out. Again, relationship first. That's what we're here for. Let us know what we can do to help out. All right. Thanks, Gary. Appreciate your time, sir.
You're welcome, everybody. Take care. Have a good day.
Y'all have a great day. Thanks.
Thanks.